So, good evening and welcome to Paul's Garden Gab. I'm delighted that you can join me this evening. Coming to you live from on location this evening. We're actually out in Natalie's garden here in Neilston. So I'm starting to kind of move out of my own garden and starting to visit other folks in their gardens, which is great. Last week we were talking to Gemma, who's a student and a pharmacy worker, about her experience of COVID. But tonight we're going to be meeting Natalie McMillan. So Natalie is a parent locally of young people who have been experiencing COVID, I guess, and how it's impacted on their kind of education and their schooling as well. So we're going to talk a bit about that. We're close to Neilston Main Street here, so you might hear the traffic. I know that's a bugbear of Natalie's, and she's always on at me to try and do something about the traffic. So if you're out driving, slow down. Make sure you're slowing down. That's absolutely key. So hello Natalie, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
And do you want to just tell us a wee bit about you?
Okay, I'm Natalie. I have lived in Neilston since I was 4. I'm married. I have 2 children. I've got a 14-year-old son who's a typical grumpy teenager, and I've got a 9-year-old daughter who's a grumpy 9-year-old, to be honest. Yeah.
Excellent. So 2 kids, just kind of quite typical, and they are both at school kind of locally. And what's it like typically for your family? Because, you know, bringing up 2 kids in normal times, I guess, can be challenging, but what's it like a normal day for them, I guess?
Well, normally I work part-time, so they're at school through the week. I work a couple of days through the week and an alternate day at the weekend normally. And my husband works full-time as well. Not so much at the weekends nowadays, but they're at school. When I'm working, they're at my mum and dad's, or after school.
Yeah.
Extracurricular activities, that kind of thing.
So childcare, I guess, is a big part of that, allowing you guys to be able to do work and to make sure the kids are looked after. So what's changed? I mean, I guess everything has changed in the last 10 weeks or so because COVID has such a big impact on all of our lives. But what's changed really for you guys as a family, I guess?
Well, when it first happened, I was at work just before the lockdown. I work as an optometrist, so I was there in the day where we had to start wearing gloves, start not seeing patients, that kind of thing. I worked one day like that and it was so bizarre. We had to phone patients and just triage them on the phone. Very strange. And then after that I got furloughed. My husband worked for a couple more weeks, and then he got put on furlough, so we've both been at home the whole time. Apart from that, it's been brilliant.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
So I imagine if you're working full time or part time, or your partner's away or your partner's working, it must be a nightmare. I can't imagine it.
Yeah, and that's really interesting because obviously all the allied health professions, so you're talking about optometry, it's a strange world, because we were talking to Gemma last week, who is a dispenser and a pharmacist, and she's studying immunology, and she was talking about that, people just feeling unsure and needing the support because, you know, people's eyesight doesn't, you know, change because of COVID. But, you know, so that must have been challenging from a work point of view for you as well, and quite stressful, I guess, at times.
Yeah. And there's been updates all the time. Everything changes week by week, so I don't know how the people in my work are managing without their heads exploding, because it must just be a nightmare.
So if you're just joining us, hello, we're doing the Garden Gab and we're here on Main Street with Natalie in her garden, and it's a nice evening in Neilston. The weather's been a bit changeable all day actually, and we were both just saying, let's hope it doesn't rain, because I've not had a rainy one of these yet, and we don't intend to start now, Natalie, do we? So we're just talking about really the experience for Natalie's family, because she's got 2 young children, and what's really changed for them, you know?
Well, my son really struggled in the beginning. It was very hard for him to manage his time and to get all the work done, because he got quite a lot of work from the high school. They have quite a lot of assignments, not just from the one subject. So they've had, like, the geography, and then if the geography is a whole year group, so there's lots of things like that. So that's been a struggle for him. But once we got on top of the fact that he wasn't managing his time well and he was still working till 10 o'clock at night and said, no, we need to sort this, then that's been better. My daughter, if I keep on at her, it's fine. In the first few weeks, if I said, are you like this at school? Once, I must have said it 10 times a day. But we've kind of calmed down with that now. She is a bit better, but teacher's desire of just everything there too.
So a challenge to maybe motivate your
Definitely,
daughter,
yes.
and then a challenge maybe to help your son get the balance right, because he was kind of working all the time. And I guess that's hard because you are so structured in school, and as soon as you kind of are out of the classroom and into this home learning environment, which no one, I guess, has really done before, I guess that is challenging for them. And it's interesting you've got two kids that are maybe at very different stages and very different styles as well.
Yes.
But you were saying there that you thought that the schools have been quite helpful in terms of preparing a lot of that material and keeping in touch. So what's that been like?
Well, in the beginning, they were sending out all the stuff before they stopped. The week before they stopped, they were sending all the resources home, and it was overwhelming, to be honest, for me.
Sure.
I found it far too much. It was just like, I can't look at that, it's too much. But I've not even, the Google Classroom's got loads of wee tiles. We've not even looked at half of them. We've done the Google Classroom, and we've done whatever it says on that to do. And I've been doing Duolingo. I've been learning Italian,
excellent.
so that's
Very
brilliant.
good, very good.
But a lot of it was just like, no, we'll not do that. And in the beginning as well, when it was stressful and it was like, I don't know what I'm doing here, we just resorted to, we'll do some arts and crafts and we'll do baking, and then we'll settle down and it's got better.
And do you think that that's important though as well? Because whilst that curriculum that we have it is broad and is meant to kind of look at life skills, do you think this has been a really good opportunity to do some of the stuff that maybe you wouldn't do at school as a family? So you're talking about baking and doing arts and crafts. I mean, for your daughter particularly, for her well-being, do you think that's been important just to do some of that stuff?
Yes, definitely. Even more so for Callum, to be honest.
Oh really?
He's found the baking very good for managing the stress.
Good, great,
very good.
Fantastic. So we're expecting some cattle show entries. So if you're not from Neilston, the agricultural show is, you know, the biggest event of the year. It didn't happen this year, sadly, due to COVID, but they have a fantastic baking competition which could give the Bake Off a run for its money. So I'm expecting some good entries from your family next year.
Well,
definitely.
that's how I put up my wee bunting, was for the cattle show, and it stayed up.
Lovely. What I'm going to do at the end is I'm going to show you all the lovely posters and bunting that Natalie has made, because it's really quite cheery in this garden, I think, and keeping folk going, definitely. So obviously kind of getting to grips with home learning, and how have you found the support from the schools in terms of just maybe checking in and being able to communicate? Has that been helpful?
Well, we haven't had to have anyone check in, to be honest, because we have been engaging on the Google Classroom.
Good.
We've seen us, and we've Ailey's chatting to different teachers online, because they've got a Google Playground as well, so they can chat to their peers.
So tell us a wee bit about that. That's been an opportunity for her to talk to her friends and just catch up in a kind of safe space. So she found that quite helpful.
Yeah, she likes that. She has like that, and they can chat to different teachers, because there's different teachers on it every day as well. So that's quite nice.
Because I guess one of the big challenges for kids is not seeing their friends in the way that they would normally, because we all know that, you know, mum and dad or whoever cares for them, well, they're all fine and good to a point, but you want to be with your pals and you want to have a laugh and you want to, and I speak to a lot of young people who are really missing that, and I think we need to think about, when we get into the recovery, how do we help people to maybe socialise in that safe way, because they'll be really missing that, you know. Great. So hello, if you're joining us, we're in the Garden Gab and we're here in Natalie's garden in Neilston, and we're just talking about what home learning has been like for the kind of 10 weeks of lockdown. So obviously there's been a lot of kind of chat about the recovery and about how we get children and young people back into school, and particularly this week it's been a bit of a hot topic. So how do you feel about it? I mean, how do you feel about the kind of steps that we're starting to take to try and get kids back into school?
Well, I feel I probably know a bit more about it than most people, because I'm the parent council chair. So
we've kept that quiet until now, just in case the head teacher is watching. No, I'm kidding. Natalie is a fantastic parent council chair here in Neilston. She leads the parent council really well. So you know a wee bit about the plans, I guess, more so than maybe most. So what's your thoughts?
Well, actually, I was on the webinar last night with John Swinney with parents from there was over 4,000 parents from all around the country on, and I do feel that East Renfrewshire is quite ahead of, I feel like I'm buttering you up now, it's quite far ahead of the curve.
I hope you're listening, John, to what she's saying, right?
Because there was a lot of parents on there really angry, they've got no idea what's going on, they've got no communication, whereas we had a big meeting with Mary Shaw, the Director of Education, and yourself, and quite a few other heads of service last week
it was, yeah.
And they outlined the plan, and some of it was vague because we just don't know. The whole point is we just don't know what it's going to be like in August, because we're 10 weeks on now. August is nearly 10 weeks away, so we don't know. But the plan they have just now, if we were opening just now, the way things are, is quite robust.
Yeah.
So
And I think that's the challenge, I think, in the conversation this week has been about if we're taking those tentative steps, how do we do that in a way that's safe and in a way that protects people? And I think you're right. I think we were quite early going out in East End, and I think people felt there was confidence in that because what we were saying was safety will be paramount for us, but we have to be realistic that children are missing out and we need to try and get them back into the classroom because of what you've said, I think, about the social connections, but also about ensuring they get face-to-face time with teachers, particularly, I think, for those young people who will be facing national qualifications and exams. And we need clarity, I think, more clarity from the SQA, actually, about what's going to happen with exams. And I don't know how you feel about that as a parent, but...
I do, because Callum will be has just gone into S4. So he only did 2 third year exams, so he hasn't had that experience of exams that you normally get in third year to prepare you.
Of course, yeah.
So if he doesn't have exams next year either, then he's going to go into his hires as the first time as a formal exam, and that's a crazy idea.
Yeah, that's quite concerning.
So that worries me a wee bit as well.
So I think, for me, we've seen, certainly here in East End this week, young people back into classrooms for the first time. Very small groups of kids maybe in P7 who are going to transition into first year and kids going into primary 1. But there's definitely a debate to be had, I think, about how do we help to get more children back to school in August for longer periods of time. And I am really hopeful that we can kind of work collaboratively and get a bit more guidance from the government, because I think there needs to be almost a national approach. And we've seen lots of people say that this week, Jack McConnell, for example, and others, kind of advocating how do we all come together and make a plan so we can get as many children back in a safe way as possible. So I guess, August, what will that look like for the kids? How do you think they're going to react to maybe going back part-time in August?
Well, I have prepared Amelia's quite accepting that she's going to be in 2 days and then 3 days at home. She's okay with that because she'll get to see her friends, well, some of her friends.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to Mr. Curley today, and they're going to have, in their classroom, they're going to have a kind of social wall for the, if say Ailey had learned to swim or done something, she can put that up and let the whole class know, so the other half of the class will see when she's not in. So I thought that was quite a nice idea.
So they're not all kind of missing out, because obviously
so
they have lots of different.
They can tell the whole
that's
class.
nice.
Yeah,
that's
so
nice.
And
there's been a lot of really nice stuff coming out like that. I mean, we'll plug Neilston Primary, because that's the school that your parent kids will chair of, but also here in Neilston St Thomas's and in schools across East End. We've been seeing really innovative ways to keep people in touch, but I think also that outreach into the wider community. I mean, there's been a community table set up here in Neilston. Do you want to maybe tell us a wee bit about what that is?
I think, was it Scotland?
Yes, that's right. Scotland had helped with that, yeah.
Scotland did that, but the community table is outside Neilston Primary every day unless it's lashing with rain, and it's got all sorts of things on it, supplies for school, supplies for home, toiletries. There's second-hand uniforms as well that you can also donate to, as a box for donating to as well, so it's all there to help, and there's games and resources, not just all educational stuff.
And I think the idea behind that and the ethos is that nobody should be kind of worried about being without because shops aren't opened or times are a bit tough. So there's a table there for everyone. Doesn't matter who you are or what you need. You can borrow and you can just take what you need. And there's a lot of really good stuff there for young people, as you say. And I think that's amazed me. And I don't know how you feel about that, Natalie, but I feel like at the start of this, what I said to young people particularly who were quite unsure about what was going to happen is that school is more than just a building, and I think actually, if anything, we've proved that schools are about communities and the strength of that, and I hope you see that as well,
Yeah. Well, it's like they keep saying on the Facebooks and things that everyone's in the same boat. No, everyone's in the same boat. Everyone's in the same storm, but we're not in the same vessels.
Yeah.
And it's being mindful of that.
I think that's a really good way of looking at it, because everyone's context is different. And I think for children and young people, the most resilient young person before this might have reacted in a way that you wouldn't have expected, and perhaps people who weren't as confident have maybe blossomed. So yeah, definitely. But it's been a journey, I think. I think that's fair to say, definitely. So what are your kind of hopes for the future? I've been asking everyone who's done these garden gabs, what have we learned and what should we try and hold on to in the recovery?
I think community is a big thing, although I do worry that people will just go back to the way they were, because you saw on the news the minute they opened the shops in England, everyone just went
crazy.
I mean,
I think that's great, and I think most people have been saying that we need to try and bottle, we need to try and keep this sense of community, but well-being is really important, and one of the big things that we're going to focus on in the curriculum for the recovery period is well-being. So helping young people to build up their resilience again, to talk about their experiences of lockdown and coronavirus, and to think about how they can help make change in the future. So I think we need to all kind of be committed to that as well. So we're here on the Garden Gab in Natalie's lovely garden in Neilston. I'm sure you can hear the traffic. I was commenting at the start that people drive a bit too fast on Main Street. So if you are one of those people that drives too fast or plays your music really loud, you know, you need to slow down and give that a thought, definitely. So I think I'd said to people who've been on for a wee while that I was going to do a bit of a look at your windows, if that's okay, Natalie. So I'm going to take the camera on a wee journey here. Bear with me. Oops. And I'm going to just show you the lovely bunting that Natalie has made here on her gate, which is just fabulous. You can see it there. And a nice wee view of Main Street there as well. And then I'm going to show off your windows as well because they're nice. I like posters and messages in windows. We've been seeing a lot of that. So you can see here we've got a nice poster that's been made, and so there's some nice artwork on the window, some nice paint here, which praises our NHS key workers. And lovely, be happy, be kind is the message there. Be happy, be kind. So just going to plug us back in, so to speak. So there we go. So, be happy, be kind was the message I was just showing folks in the windows. I think that's a good message to finish on, Natalie. Be happy, be kind.
Lovely message.
Excellent. Well, listen, thank you very much, everyone who's joined us on the Garden Gab. Thank you, Natalie, for giving me your time on a Wednesday evening. This is the first evening one we've done, and it is the first one we've done on location in your lovely garden. So thank you for being kind and hosting me. And we're going to be back on Friday at 12 noon with a Garden Gab. And we've got a very special guest that I have been trailing, saying to people we're having a special guest. Happy now to reveal, if you're watching, that our special guest on Friday is going to be Ian Murray, who is the Member of Parliament for Edinburgh South, and he's also the Shadow Secretary of State for Scotland, and he's a good friend of mine, and he's going to be joining me to chat a bit about what has been happening in the UK Parliament down in London, what it's been like trying to navigate some of the kind of COVID-19 issues from that point of view, and what has Ian been doing as well in his community to help people, and where does he think that we need to go in the future. So really interesting chat, hopefully on Friday with Ian, so please tune in at 12 noon if you can. But Natalie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care everyone, stay safe, remember to drive slowly if you're on the main street, and we'll see you on Friday. Cheers.